A lot of things indirectly related to transportation, I guess, or whatever you want to call it. And anyway, I noticed this hill up here that I used to always see when I was growing up, whether we were driving on a big landmark here. It's been here as long as I can remember, since the early 60s. I think it's for the TV station here, the CTV TV station in Kitchener. Anyway, I thought I've never been up this hill, or at least I thought I'd never been up this hill, so I wanted to take a walk just to have a look, because you know, I always used to look at this hill, the trees, lots of trees on it. It looked like there was all kinds of different kinds of trees, you know, not just maple trees or evergreen trees, but a diversity of trees. So you're probably wondering what this has to do with the passing of my father. Well, I'm going to explain that to you. I'm partway up the hill now. I was chatting with somebody online the other day, a friend of mine from Peru actually, and she said to me, have you visited your father lately? And I said to her, well, don't you know he passed away? And she goes, yeah, I know that, but have you gone to see him at the cemetery? You know, to visit him. And I said, well, he wasn't buried at a cemetery, so there's really no way I can do that. And then I said, besides, he's with me all the time anyway, so, but I wasn't really too sure of that because I really haven't felt his presence much. And her saying that to me really made me think, is there some way that I can communicate with my father, maybe spiritually? Because I really don't feel a presence. See, my father and I had a kind of an unusual relationship. It was a little bit different than the relationship he had with my sister or my older brother. Okay. But then when I came up here, I remembered the little walks my father and I used to take. And he knew all the names of all the different kinds of trees. He always had an interest in trees. And he got me interested in so many different kinds of trees around here. I've forgotten a lot of them, but we used to walk through areas like this, and he would tell me what all the different kinds of trees were. And I actually memorized them. There's that big television tower that's been here for decades. But when I was here this morning, I wasn't thinking about my dad at all. I just wanted to come up here and see what it was like, because I thought that I'd never been up here. But as I got to this point, I was noticing all these familiar trees that were in my backyard growing up. And I know that my dad and I must have walked this path on more than one occasion. I started looking at a tree like this, which is a black cherry tree. That's hornbeam, I believe. It's another black cherry. There's the familiar maple tree. And there's a big old walnut tree, by the looks of it. And I walked along, and I was noticing more familiar trees. Another black cherry. Some ash. There's some ash trees. All different kinds of trees. Boring, right? But this is what my father did. My father and I did. We would walk on trails like this. And my dad used to say, that's a trillium. Those are trilliums. That's the provincial flower of Ontario. If you pick that, they'll throw you in jail. And I was remembering all this, and I realized that, hey, you know, I never had any kids. And This is my father's legacy. As simple as it seems, you know, I didn't have any kids and I wouldn't be walking like this with my kids and sharing all my tree knowledge with them. And it made me really sad. Made me feel sad. How am I going to get some sort of a spiritual connection with my dead father? And I know a lot of people have a hard time with spirituality, but I think if we have memories, the memories are what's important. And to me, my father's is this, the trees, and how trivial the trees are to most, but there's such a diversity here of trees in this area where I live. And I think my dad liked that because I showed an interest in the trees. I was never quite able to take such an interest in just everyday schoolwork or whatever. I could have, but I think the classroom environment was a little stuffy. So this was our time. This is the time that my father and I had, was with the trees. And then as I got older, became a teenager, obviously I became interested in other things. And I think this disappointed my father because we no longer had a connection. And my dad loved this stuff. And I loved it too. I was his son, after all. But then, you know, things changed. I became a teenager. I became more interested in teenager things. My parents split up. My dad wasn't around as much. I always looked forward to his visits. Especially in the early years when my parents split up, because I was still young and I still had this interest in, you know, some of the things that he was interested in. He could come down to my level, so I wasn't feeling insignificant or I wasn't feeling small. I thank my dad for that now, you know, and this is how I remember my father, and this is how I spend time with my father now. This is how I'm going to spend time with my father. That's my father's legacy, it's the trees. And every time I want to be with my father, I'm going to come through a forest like this, and I'm going to look at a black cherry tree, I'm going to look at an ash tree, and I'm going to look at a walnut tree, and I'm going to say, you know, my dad, that's what my dad told me these were. That's an ash tree, Dad. That's a cherry tree. I know my father and I were here, and we were at many places like this over the years, and these places are unchanged. Well, a lot of them have changed. Like my backyard is no longer like this. Like the backyard that I had when I was a kid. It was very much like this when I was a kid, but now it's all beaten down with human traffic. But here, I don't think this bit of land is going to be touched in a long time, because I don't think they can build on it because it's a big kind of hill. That's how I remember my father. That's the spiritual connection that I have with my father, is through memories. You know, that's how my father stays alive today, is through the memories. I can still communicate with him, you know, just walking through here and talking about the trees.